Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Leverage a Textbook or Academic Book to Launch a Consulting Career, presented by Bill Curry. Bill served in the field of public procurement as a researcher, author, practitioner, and consultant. Following his retirement as an Air Force Systems Procurement Officer, Curry worked on NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and on Stanford National Accelerator Laboratory's positron-electron project. He served as the Purchasing Services Manager, Deputy Administrative Officer, and General Services Director for Butte County in California. He was designated as a Fellow by the National Contract Management Association. He authored 3 editions of 2 textbooks in the field of public procurement. He earned an MBA from The Ohio State University and a BS in Business Management from Florida State University. Hello, Bill. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. During this webinar, I will provide tips on how you can leverage your book to launch a consulting career. To be candid, however, I learned most of these techniques not before I launched my own career in consulting, but afterwards. Hopefully, this webinar will help you to avoid some of the errors that I made early on. These are the topics that I will cover this afternoon. There are several actions needed to be accomplished to establish your business. I established one company for both consulting and selling books. However, I do not sell the books directly to clients. I prefer the convenience of not needing to maintain an inventory, shipping books, or billing customers. Naturally, I need to bill consulting clients, but not for books. My website provides a mechanism for purchasing each of my books, and I'll provide details on this later. LinkedIn provides an excellent tool for selling books and promoting your consulting company. Establishing an author page on your publishers or Amazon's or similar websites is helpful for selling books and for advertising your consulting business. I recommend that you not rely solely on your publisher marketing and sales efforts. Marketing and sales efforts, you will likely need to market your books and your consulting services yourself. Many large consulting companies such as Booz Allen Hamilton and others do not include consulting in their company names. Exceptions are Deloitte Consulting and other large consulting firms that are shown on this slide. Since your newly established consulting company will likely not begin with a prominent name that is normally associated with consulting, I recommend that you include consulting and possibly book in your company name. I recommend including your expertise in your company's name as well. I merely use WSC before consulting. In retrospect, however, I should have chosen something at least reflected my professional field. A better name for my company would have been Public Procurement Consulting or Public Procurement Books and Consulting. Consider a registered trademark for your company name. When you choose a company name, make sure you don't use the name presently used by one of your competitors. To register it, you can use the search term registered trademark to register your company. This information presented during this webinar is not legal advice. I'm not an attorney. Normally, incorporation is the best way to ensure that your personal assets are not at risk should the company be sued. In rare cases, however, courts can pierce a corporate shield. One 20-car taxi cab company attempted to avoid having its entire company assets being at risk by establishing a separate corporation for each pair of taxi cabs. Therefore, it established 10 separate corporations with merely 2 cars per corporation. A court, however, pierced that corporate veil because it represented an abuse of the corporate protection provisions. Sorry about that. I recommend obtaining a federal tax ID number and applying directly to the IRS for your tax ID number. This minimizes excessive exposure of your Social Security number and may be a requirement with some public entities which you may sell to or contract with. Online application is the simplest option. However, there are other options for applying for your federal tax ID number. A good search term for the correct website is Federal Tax Identification Number. Application through a third party is possible, but could entail added costs. You may fax or mail a tax ID application using IRS Form SS-4, which is available on their website. International applicants should call the telephone number on the slide. And this telephone number is also on the website. Most, if not all, cities require a business license to operate a business, and cities normally issue business licenses. You will need to know the name or names of all business owners. You'll also need to know the name and address of your company and know the date that you started operation of your business. Be prepared to pay for a business license at the time of registration and periodically. Most likely you will have an annual fee. Registration of your company with prospective clients may require online registration. Prospective clients may request or require an NIGP, NAICS, APICS, or UNSPSC code. And those are just codes that represent the type of business that you're in. When such codes are required, there's normally a drop-down menu with all available code protocols. The drop-down menus often include a search function on there. What I would recommend is, if you're doing that, you should use the search terms such as consult or book, or both at different times, to limit the number of choices of drop-down menus on the drop-down menus. Otherwise, you may need to consider hundreds of choices to find the relevant codes to enter. You will likely need to publish a fictitious business name statement. If you shorten the legal name, for example, if your company name is Acme Incorporated, but you just use Acme, you will likely need a fictitious business name statement. The city person handling your business license application should know if a fictitious business name is necessary. Fictitious business name statements normally require applications through the county, placing a notice in the local newspaper, providing a certified copy of the county fictitious name statement. The fictitious name statement is normally required to open a bank account. And I'll go into the bank account later on because it is important to have a separate account for that. And you want to be prepared to pay the newspaper for publishing your fictitious business name statement. Your bank or credit union may not accept checks made out to a business for deposit into a personal checking account. There may be two types of fictitious business name statements, either not certified or certified. There's generally a higher fee to obtain a certified fictitious business name statement. When opening a business checking account, you are normally required to provide your bank or credit union with a certified fictitious business name statement. If your company can benefit from being classified as a company that can be certified in one or more categories for socioeconomic procurement programs, you should seek such certification. This is helpful if your clients are public entities, government contractors, or private companies that have their own socioeconomic procurement goals. It is likely that your company will be classified as a small business if it is owned and managed by a person qualified according to your client's guidelines. There are numerous other categories besides small business, such as small disadvantaged, disabled, veteran-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned, women-owned, and minority. It's very important that you do not claim one of these if you are not qualified for it. The two veteran socioeconomic categories may not be available except within your own state. Like in the state of Washington, that you have to have a company that's located in Washington. In Ohio, it doesn't matter; they'll accept it throughout the nation. Creating a company logo is recommended. You may use your logo on letterhead, envelopes, mailing labels, business cards, advertising like on ballpoint pens and email advertisements, company website, LinkedIn website, or other bookseller websites. Creating a company business card is recommended as well. You can include both consulting and books on your business card. You might show company contact information on the front side, such as your name, company logo, certifications you have, USPS address, landline or cell phone number, email address, websites, and also you might consider on the back of your card, you might even want to identify the books that you've published. Your website should promote both your books and your consulting services. Appropriate images should be incorporated in your website, such as book cover images, book awards, your photo, description of each book, your contact information, and your logo. Your webpage should promote the latest editions of your in-print books. I promote only the latest editions on my webpage. However, you may wish to promote earlier editions as well. I put descriptions on two of my website pages. I put it on the About Us, and I also have a page called Books. I also have the book cover images above descriptions on both web pages. To save space, you might, on your About Us page, have a more abbreviated description of your book. I recommend that you place a button below your book description that will take anyone clicking on it to a URL where the book can be ordered. The button brings your website visitor to your publisher's or bookseller's URL. This slide gives the person on your website a choice between ordering from the publisher or from Amazon. You might wish to show just one button. On my website, I display only a button for my publisher, and I chose this option because I get a larger royalty when books are sold by my publisher rather than from Amazon. Most of you likely have seen this website extract from TAA's announcement of this webinar. I added the top green arrow, which points to the link to click to go to TAA's website. And TAA was kind enough to add the place to click to go to my website, shown by the second arrow. I recommend that you include such links whenever possible on websites. This is a standard page on LinkedIn, and that's why the format is like that. And it lists your publications and it lists them in order of dates. The first two publications listed are third editions of two of my public procurement textbooks. The third listed publication is the research paper I wrote, which was published by the Defense Acquisition University. I recommend including any research papers or articles that you authored by including these here on LinkedIn if they are consistent with your books or consulting business. When a LinkedIn visitor clicks on Show Publication, they will go to another page that shows more details on each of the publications. This is another LinkedIn page that offers you numerous ways to expand your company's presence. I recently turned on LinkedIn's creator mode so that I can post material on my LinkedIn website that gives hints to some material in my textbooks. When you post information on LinkedIn, you will receive feedback such as how many people looked at your post, how many people left impressions such as thumbs up emojis, and also comments about your post. To access this information, go to your LinkedIn homepage and click Me, and then click on Post and Activity. The material on the right-hand half of this slide was copied from my LinkedIn website and pasted here to demonstrate how you can be a creator. The blue arrow points to where you can turn on the creator mode on LinkedIn, and the green arrow points to the area you click on in order to create a post. So definitely what you would do is you would prepare material that you want to post first and have it available so that when you do click on create a post, you can just paste it in there. This is an example of the top half of one of my posts. My research identified both good and bad public procurement practices. This post reveals 3 proposal scoring protocols that are being used despite having deficiencies. The deficiencies are described in the post. Just 2 of those would fit on this particular slide. The post also recommends the recommended proposal scoring protocol and the rationale for recommending this protocol. And of course, this is some material that I cover in my book. Oh, there we go. Expanding your network helps build your business. On your LinkedIn homepage, you can click on excuse me, My Network to get information on the LinkedIn members that you might wish to invite to join your LinkedIn network. When I get them, you can see this is what you actually will get on LinkedIn, and I blocked off the pictures and parts of the names of the individuals just for their privacy. What I do in order to evaluate who I want to invite to join my network is I review their job title, their employer, any professional certifications, and number of mutual connections to determine whether they might be interested in either purchasing my textbook, teaching classes based on my textbooks, or being prospective consulting clients. After the number of connections I established reached a high number, and shows at 5,688 when I prepared this PowerPoint presentation, I feared that it might be embarrassing if someone who is presently in my network receives another invitation. Fortunately, LinkedIn blocks this from happening by not sending an invitation if you already have a current connection with that person. I normally do not invite someone from Tyra because of her job description. Tyra, she is on the bottom row, second from the right. And you can see her first name isn't blocked out, and part of her certification is there as the NIGP, which is the National Institute of Government Procurement. And because of that and the fact that we have 23 mutual connections, I decided to invite her to join the network. This slide reflects material on my publisher's author webpage. My publisher is Routledge, and I believe that most publishers have pages or web pages for their authors. By clicking on one of the cover images, details on that book will be reflected on that publisher's web page. An example of a web page for an individual book is on the next slide. Selecting support materials on this one, we can see the green arrow pointing, will provide a drop-down menu. And the drop-down menu, the material on that is shown on the next page. And you can see on this one, under support materials, and it says ancillaries, which is the label for whatever categories are available. In this case, it says modules 1 through 5, and these are PowerPoint presentations that were prepared for a university. And then the other is appendices. And the appendices are sample procurement documents that can be used by consulting clients or in the teaching environment too, used for, say, term papers or preparing classroom exercises. This is actually a good selling point for a textbook because you have some materials that are already available for the professor or the teacher. This is an example of a bookseller's author page. Booksellers' author pages are free and should prove useful for supporting book sales and possibly consulting assignments as well. I believe this author page is from Amazon. Barnes & Noble also has author pages, and other booksellers likely have author pages as well. This concludes the PowerPoint session on the presentation. And so Sierra is going to open this up for questions. And I hope this webinar was helpful, and I wish you success on your consulting and book business.
Thank you, Bill. So as a reminder, to ask a question, please type it into the question box on the control panel on your screen, and I'll read your questions to Bill as they come in. Jean asked, will this presentation in PDF be available after the webinar? And yes, it will. We always record presentations and put them up on the website. Cheval said, thank you so much. How did you learn to do all of this?
Trial and error, mostly errors. And it was going on over a period of years.
Susan said, I didn't know that authors could have any control over the textbook publisher page or Amazon page. How do you influence the content?
Actually, I don't know how it is with all of the publishers, but my publisher gives me total control over the what I want to put on there. And for example, with the PowerPoints, if I want to update them, I can just go ahead and get the revisions and notify the publisher, and they just take it and put it right on their web page. With the booksellers, for example, with Amazon, they will allow the authors to write their own bio, and they will accept comments and recommendations on book descriptions if you think something is misleading or could be clarified somehow. And that's not an instantaneous process, and you might end up getting in a chat with someone there. But oftentimes you can do that, and they might want you to write out exactly what you think would be the proper wording for your bio or book description, and send it to them.
Sierra asked, how can I get my book and information on booksellers' websites? The
publishers should be providing that information and sending it out to them. If you're not seeing books available through particular book sites, you might want to ask your publisher about it and make sure that they have sent the information out.
How did you obtain customers? Through sending LinkedIn invitations?
I did that somewhat. I sent some invitations. I make email lists, and actually I use LinkedIn for that quite a bit. You can do advertising through LinkedIn, or if you get people to join your network, about 95% of those have their email address available through LinkedIn. When you go to their, like the one I showed you where they had the pictures partially blocked out, you go in there and you ask them to join, and then when they join, then you can access their page, and there's up at the top, it says contact information. And if you click that, do a left mouse click on that, it'll show various ways you can contact them, and usually it'll say email. And if it says email, you do a right click on that one, and then it'll make the email available. I'm sorry, you make a left click to make it available, and then to copy it, you do a right mouse click, and then you can copy it. And what I do, an easy way to do that is I use an Excel file, and I'll just put the email addresses on the Excel file, and when I get a long list of those, and then if I send an email, what I can do is I can select, say, about 30 email addresses, copy them, and go onto the email and paste it. And I usually paste it on the BCC column so that they don't see everybody who's getting the email. But it's really very simple, because you do that one click to paste it there, and it'll paste all 30. And oftentimes when you paste them, it'll just show them listed all right next to each other, which is not the proper format for sending an email. But if you wait sometimes several minutes, all of those will be converted to proper email addresses, and then you can just click on send.
We also have a question. How did writing the book lead to a consulting gig?
Well, I had a lot of good luck in a couple of areas. One of those was being able to get the book published. I read the book, How to Get Your Book Published, and it was an old edition that was not current, and you had to sort of translate it to include internet information and that sort of thing on there. But I went out to 3 or 4 publishers and just made them a pitch on the email, and one of them came right back and they said, well, we were just discussing this yesterday and we were looking for a book on procurement. So I was really extremely lucky getting started that way. And the same with my consulting. When I retired from Butte County, I gave them 3 months notice, but they had not yet found a replacement for me. And so my first consulting assignment was to continue in my job as a consultant for another 3 months until the replacement. And one of my colleagues at the county had moved over to one of the California State University campuses, and their purchasing manager had just retired, and they were looking for a replacement, and they wanted an intern to serve there. And so that was my second one. And so that helped a lot. And another one which was, it may not help a lot because you really have to have a lot of luck, but our newspaper, the local newspaper, publishes book reviews, and the person who does those reviews works at a community college nearby. And he was drafted to work on a program for the whole community, the state's whole community college organization, to buy some computer software. And so they wanted to have some help writing the request for proposal and also for evaluating the proposals. And the one who reviewed my book recommended me, and that was my third one. After that, I pretty much got them by, see, my customers are primarily public procurement agencies, and they all have websites, and they have a special site for their procurement offices. And if you go onto their site on the procurement offices for a particular public entity that you would like to do business with, they ask you to register your company. And so when you register your company, you'll need a lot of the things that I talked about, like the federal tax identification number, and they want to have a business license, and you might also have to have a fictitious name statement. So they want to make sure that you're a legal company and properly established. But then that's how I got most of my customers. And then so I registered with them. And when you register and you put in those codes, like the NIGP code, those tell you, or they tell the public agency what work you can provide, either products or services. And when they get a requirement for it, they will post those online, and they'll notify you that they have a request for proposal or a request for quotation for particular consulting assignments. And that's how, after those first 3 lucky breaks, that's how I've found all of my consulting assignments.
Christina said, Bill, thank you for the informative presentation. My question has to do with the practicalities of fees. Do you recommend advertising your consulting fees up front, or is it better to wait for the client to ask about fees and negotiate based on the particular job?
Okay, and now again, it's a little bit different for me because my clients are all public entities. So when I was initially looking for a consulting assignment through going through those websites, there was one from one of the state agencies awarded a contract to a company in another state, and they needed a representative in California to do some interviews. And so when I talked with them, they told me the maximum hourly rate that I could charge, which I thought was highly unusual. So I gave them a rate that was below their maximum. And since you're dealing with government agencies, they question the fact that you would use different fees, different hourly fees with different agencies. And they do audit, and there have been companies that have been sued for overcharging because they were charging one agency a different price. So I just have a standard rate that I charge all the time. And since, and I usually don't have to tell them up front because they ask for a written proposal or a written quotation. And when you submit your proposal, they have usually submit an Excel file that has rates you charge. And that's basically what I do. I just put my standard rate on those charges.
Cheval asked, would you please share additional ways you market your books and services? What have you found is the most difficult aspect of marketing?
The different ways that I've tried, I found them all were equally as difficult, and it is difficult, and you have to expect to go to a whole lot more places than are ready to give you a contract right away. My first ones were easy, but some of those have been kind of tough since then. I haven't tried the LinkedIn paid advertising option, but that's certainly something I have been considering. What I do is, I mentioned earlier about collecting the email addresses of likely clients, and I use just an email, and I send it out pretty much like a spam email to my LinkedIn people who are connected with me. And I have from time to time sent out say a mailer, and you can also do a different type of search for the mailer. You can just look up say different agencies and get the name and address of their head person, like I go for the chief procurement officer or purchasing manager or something like that. And I would make a list and then actually mail it out. And I think that, as you can imagine, that the effort for mailing them is it's more expensive. It's a lot more work. I think it actually does pay off a little bit better, especially if you're very careful to send it to people who are good prospects as clients.
We have a question. Who is the author of How to Get a Book Published?
Oh, the one I mentioned earlier, I guess you mean. The one I found was it was How to Get Your Book Published for Dummies, and it was with the For Dummies series of books. And I found the one I found was, I was just looking on the shelf at a local Barnes and Noble bookstore here that we have in town, and I saw the book right there on the shelf and bought it.
What is the benefit for them to join you? What do you give them?
I don't understand the question. I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry.
DT Ogilvy, will you rephrase your question and we'll come back to it? We also have a question of what does your invitation look like?
I try to make it not too long, and I try to indicate the benefits, and I show a book cover image, and for the book where I have the TAA award, I show the award symbol, and I give information on where they can buy the books, of course, too.
They specified your invitation, asked people to join your site, so why should they?
You know, you would think people wouldn't be so interested in it, but I think the fact that if they know that you're an author and you're writing something in the field where they work, they seem very willing to accept the invitation. And you know, I kind of doubted that myself when I first started inviting some people, and so I started inviting them, and then I thought, well, you know, maybe some people who had even higher levels might be interested in it. And if I knew that the procurement worked in finance or in administration, I might send it to the head of those departments, and you know, send them an invitation to join, and quite a few of them do join. Whenever I see my books are college books, so when I see professors, if they look like they could be in my field, or if there's a lot of connections where we share connections, then I'll send them an invitation, and I get a very high acceptance rate. So, and then I've invited some mayors to join, and some mayors have joined my network. And because, you know, some mayors might be interested, well, I'd really like to have a better procurement department. And I would say of the invitations that I sent out, I think probably about 80 or 85% acceptance.
We have another question. Do you provide a special link to your book so you can track sales?
No, I don't. I have actually, about the best feedback I get is how they're doing on Amazon. And as I understand it, it's not Amazon does the ranking not just on their sales, but shipments from book warehouses. But I guess, you know, if I had tried to contact my publisher, they might be able to give me some better information, but I haven't taken that step yet.
Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Oh, also Shabal says, I appreciate you. So you answered their question.
Oh, I'm glad you gave me the opportunity.
All right. Don't see any more questions. So thank you, Bill, for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you all for participating in today's presentation.
You're very welcome. Glad to.